Rev up your engines! All right, the other day a guy on the internet called me a moron because he said I didn't like Dodge trucks and said if there was a land of morons, I would be the king of morons. So let's see what happens when I analyze a Dodge Ram. All right, the guy just bought this, got 130-something thousand miles, and living in Rhode Island, he decided to get a four-wheel drive one. We're gonna go through the whole thing and see what kind of shape it's in. See, did he make a wise choice or not? Now, trucks aren't going cheap these days. He had to pay $19,000 for this. It's 2015. It has a big old Hemi V8 engine, so it sucks down gas, but he said he'll be lucky if he drives it 2,000 miles a year. He doesn't put that many miles on it, right? The one thing people always worry about with these V8 Hemis is the Hemi tick, so let's start it up. It sounds totally normal. It doesn't have the Hemi tick. We go back to the back. The engine's got a nice rumble, and it's running perfectly fine. Now, the Hemi tick occurs on some of these engines because they upgrade them for horsepower. When they made the engine have more horsepower, they moved the cam up too high. So the cam is too far away from the crank. And the lubrication that the cam gets by splashing off the crank at a lot of low speed and especially idle, it doesn't get up high enough to lubricate the cam, then the lifters will start clicking. You got to rebuild the engine, which is very expensive. But in this case, this baby's 7 years old. It's got 140,000 miles or so on it. Most of it was highway driving. When you're on the highway, it doesn't wear the cam because then the engine's going really fast and the oil splashes all up inside the engine. Lubricates the cam's fine, they don't have any problems. So if you find a high mileage one of these that's a newer vehicle, you'll find a lot of them will not have ticks. Now, if you do get one of these and you're looking to buy it, you start in idle, you can hear tick, tick, ticking away, don't buy it. You got to rebuild the whole engine. It's a pain in the butt. Yeah, the lifters are clacking, but they're clacking because they ride on the cams. You got to rebuild the whole engine. It's not worth buying one if they make noise. But if you're not going to idle much, do a lot of low-speed driving, they're perfectly fine. The ones that sit and idle, like if it's a police vehicle, you would never want one of them because they sit and idle all the time and that destroys them. The cams will be clacking like mad. So, in this case, it's not making a sound, so as far as I can tell so far, you got a good deal on it. It's got lots of space. You put the seat way back here. 2 kids riding the back. It is a family hauler. You wanted something tall, safe. Now as we go inside the driver's side, it's a sure sign he has kids other than the seats because there's a donut bag and banana skins. You know there's children in here, right? These things have a lot of space. They're very spacious. And of course it has all the modern amenities that you'd want. I'm not a big fan of this electronic crap, but that's how it goes. And it does have the 4-wheel drive, automatic low, 2-wheel drive, just by pushing buttons. Turn the traction control off. You can put it for tow and haul. He does tow a boat with it. And it's got a nice power knockoff here, so you can plug in 120 volt stuff. And a huge side here. You got all kinds of room. Power knockoffs in here. But let's get down to the nitty gritty. I'll get my big computer out. We're gonna scan through the whole thing. Even everything's black. The plug was black. It was hard to find, but it's right in the middle here. And we'll do an auto scan. All right, it knows it's a 2015 Dodge Ram. 2010, they decided to have their own brand Ram when Fiat took over. As you can see here, this is when Fiat Chrysler owned it. And this particular one was made in Mexico. It does have an automatically controlled transmission. It's all computerized. And sometimes these 2015s had a problem with downshifting. So when I road test it, we'll see if it goes second to first weird or whether it's working good or not. Generally, it looks in pretty good shape, but it has a couple odd problems. We'll check the body control module. Right tail light, short the battery. Center stop light, short the battery or open. But they're working, so it could be just a minor flaw. Wiring could be a little corroded. While it goes on, we'll turn it off and we'll clear the code for our road test. There's the code for the radio. We'll see what craziness that is. CAN interior bus off performance. You'll often see that these stupid computer bus lines, they go squirrely at times, so we'll erase that too. We'll see what's going on here. The last code, passenger door module. Door module, internal, missing calibration. Well, it opens and closes. Erase that too. And as long as we're in here, we'll see what kind of shape the vehicle's in generally by going back to the main data, powertrain control module, starting it up, and looking at live data. You can see what live data. 245 points of data. Now we'll start running through the data. Color coded again. If it's off, it'll be a different color. So it's idling very smooth, nothing shaking. It even gives you the temperature of the oxygen sensor heaters. That's amazing. And they're all 650, 660. They're all working. And when we look at the short-term fuel adaptation, it's subtracting a little bit, adding a little, goes up and down. That's going to be typical on an engine that's got 140,000 miles. They're not going to be perfect, but they're not that bad. For a second there, it was almost perfect, 0.01. It's subtracting a little fuel, then it adds a little fuel. You'll often see that on these. Especially with one of these modern ones that has cylinder deactivation. This can be a V4 instead of a V8. I don't like any of that crap myself, but it's got it on it because they're trying to get them to get a little bit better gas mileage. The truck doesn't have a gauge on it. The computer knows what the oil temperature is. In this case, it's 88 degrees Celsius. You don't have a gauge like they used to put on, but the computer knows. The cam's in very good shape because you can see exhaust cam, intake cam. The duty cycles are all zero. It's not having to adapt anything. Sometimes zero is a good thing. Now, if you have zero money, not such a great thing, but zero adaptation, that's a good thing. It's modern, so it's got that active grill shutter stuff that'll open and close your grill so you get better gas mileage. I mean, they really get carried over with some of this stuff. The variable speed pump, the desired pressure is 400, and here we go. 399, 400, 401, that's pretty good. And the active valve system, the desired position is 0.00, and the actual position is 0.0 for bank 1 and also for bank 2, 0. So in this case, the cams aren't worn at all. So it's been driven on the highway a lot and it hasn't worn the cams. If the engine was worn, you'd get a data off a machine like this if you know how to read it, or you pay a guy like me who knows how to read it and says, no, your cams are bad. You can generally tell by your ears. No, they're high up in the air, so the big bump at the end of my road here isn't going to bother this thing. It's not going to tear the exhaust off like it did on that guy's Corvette. And it drives like a truck because it is a truck. Now, what we're going to watch is the downshift on this thing. We'll let it slow down and see what happens. And this doesn't have any jerking at all to it, so this transmission's in good shape. And here come all the people. This is the busiest intersection in town. And finally, there's room, but I'm not going to peel out because there's small children in the back. We'll just wait till we go, and then we'll step on it. And of course, it's a Hemi. It makes that great sound, and it's got plenty of acceleration. Now, this one was obviously taken care of by the previous owner, who did a lot of highway driving from what I can figure. So it's actually in excellent shape. It shifted good. It didn't act weird downshifting. This truck had been taken care of, and the owner even said he looked underneath, it's clean as a whistle. So whoever owned it before him also rinsed the salt off in the winter, so it didn't eat everything up. And what came back was the BCM code, which we had before. We'll read the code. Center stop control circuit, short the battery. Well, who cares? The brake lights are working. It was for the radio, and it came back. We probably won't care about that either. Some crazy radio code. And what does it say? Can interior bus off performance. This radio works. Who really cares? These things have so much computerized stuff. You don't really care when you get these minor codes. Because as you can see, it doesn't turn the check engine light on. So when you go to get your car inspected, it doesn't fail inspection because of these stupid little codes. Realize that's a CAN code, it's CAN bus, where all the information the computer sends on lines all through the vehicle. As they age, these things get codes up the wazoo. For stupid things like that, you don't really care. You just ignore them. It's not going to affect get your car inspected. It works perfectly fine. There's just stuff that you don't care about as they age. Now, I wonder, is the man who called me a moron or king of the morons going to still think I'm a moron after this? I don't know. Well, really, I don't even care. I'm just out to tell the truth about stuff. And the truth is, he got a decent truck. Now, you got to pay an awful lot for him. That's just the way that it's going. The prices have gone bananas. But it's not rusted. The engine does not have that lifter tick. If you see one of these with the lifter tick, walk away. Don't buy it. This one doesn't have that. It runs perfectly fine. Some of these, they downshift weird. It's not all that bad, but it's kind of annoying. This one doesn't do it at all. It's got like 140,000 miles on it. So it was built quite well, even though it was made in Mexico. This baby was made in Mexico, just understand. Made in Mexico means they put it together in Mexico. The engine was not built in Mexico. Neither was the transmission. It makes a great family truck for him. He can fit his kids in there. And it's a short bed because he's not hauling stuff. This is a family hauler. Everybody in Rhode Island's got a boat, right? So he's pulling his boat. This thing can pull an awful large boat. He bought it as a family vehicle. He doesn't drive all that far, so he doesn't care about gas mileage. I didn't take one side or the other. I just analyzed and saw, well, this particular one's in really good shape. Just if you're looking to buy one used, heed everything I said about the Hemi tick and the transmission when you're road testing it to see what kind of shape it's in. And when you pay a mechanic like me to check it out, tell them to check the data on the cams to make sure they're not worn. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.